Hello, welcome to How to Play D&D, the explainer podcast with one experienced dungeon master and one failed scriptwriter to discuss D&D topics. My name is Connor Kinsey. My incredible guest this week is none other than Minty from Minty Talks. Hello, Minty.
Hi, Connor. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm so excited.
It is. Thank you. It is. I mean, it's a pleasure to have you here rather than, yes, it is a pleasure.
You're like, you're welcome.
Yeah. You know where you are. I am the captain now. Yeah. No, yeah, it's a long time coming. A lot of guests recently that are completely new after a long time of just kind of having the same people on. We were just talking before we started recording about like hearing different voices, different opinions. You get stuck in your bubble. So a genuine pleasure.
Thank you.
How's your day gone? We're doing it backwards. That's how we do it.
We are doing it backwards. My day's been good, thank you. I actually have been very D&D centric today. I spent quite a lot of time writing the recap for my party's last session, which I love to do, but does take a long time because I'm very like, we must record every single thing that happened. Okay. And then I was editing a new video, so it's all been D&D today, which is
very productive. Very productive.
Yeah. I think I hit that like, I had a really chill day yesterday, and you know where some weekends you're like, I need to do nothing, and then some weekends you're like, I must do something else. I'm going to feel like a complete failure. So
I 100% get that. Productivity is my downfall. That's the problem.
Yeah,
just being never happy with how much I've done is the biggest issue.
Yeah, it's bad. We need to learn to switch off. Especially, you're getting new guests on out the absolute wazoo. So.
Got to be done. Sometimes I'm interviewing people at 5 a.m. because it's their time zone. I'm like, yeah, fine, let's do it. Okay, so what topic have you decided to cover this week?
So, we're going to be talking a little bit about ways to play D&D in between sessions, D&D in between games, which sounds weird and counterintuitive, but it's one of my favourite things to do, so I'm really excited to chat to you about it.
Let's get to it. Okay, so today's episode we are talking about between games in D&D, something I wouldn't know because I can't escape being in them. Minty, some of my players struggle to read character sheets, so I've purchased 3-meter whiteboards filled with their stats. Am I generous? Am I a generous DM? Are they now my boyfriends? What am I doing?
They are now your boyfriends. I would really appreciate that as a player because I had to purchase my own whiteboard.
Oh, you're using a whiteboard? Okay, yeah.
Yeah, no, I also am really, really bad at learning my character sheet. So sorry to my DM. And I also recommend whiteboards. It's really handy to have something just next to you. I guess if you play online, it makes more sense, which I do. But bring that 3-meter whiteboard to the session, roll it up. Why not?
In the kind of like in the other room we got in the flat, it has a whiteboard that when I was doing writing and directing, it is like a school whiteboard that I got from a teacher and I've had it like 11, 12 years. And originally when I started D&D, that was where everything was. And now it's been put in a shadow and I have to just learn my character.
I think we need to be doing more like D&D with charades. Yeah, like I think, or like the where you have to guess what someone's drawing. So instead of describing the NPC, just draw a terrible doodle of them. Yeah, like I think we need to do more of that. Let's get more creative.
In person on your turn, you have to actually act out what you
exactly that. Yeah,
and the DM decides whether it works or not. That's the hit. It's instead of like rolling to hit, it's just their opinion, like their decision.
Exactly that. To be fair, that you've reminded me that this is so off topic, but that infuriates me. You know, when you see people playing D&D in like Big Bang Theory or something, and the DM decides what happens, and you're like, that's not how it works. I feel like the nerdiest side of me comes out, and everyone else is like, no one cares, and I'm like, I care. I think
100% I care. I just want it to be I want people to like kind of understand what they could get into rather than go, oh no, that's scary and walk away.
Exactly that. I'm all about, trying to convince people to play, and, modern media is really not helping me.
It's tough. Right, to the real questions. Although I did think we've just actually got to from like insanity to logic pretty quick from that one. Why did you select this topic?
I selected this topic because I think, not to suggest that I've solved D&D, but I might have, because I think I got thinking about this with my current group who were inspiring me with kind of all the different ways that they add to the game with their own hobbies. And I realized that it was really keeping me invested in between games where I feel like it's, especially if you have a long break or you have a couple of weeks where you can't get the scheduling to work, it can be really hard to kind of stay in tune with what was going on with the characters, what was going on with the story, which is fine. Obviously, everyone's a grown up and we all have a lot going on. So I think for me, it's an important topic because it's really easy things can be done to keep campaigns lasting longer and not have that kind of dissonance in between sessions. And it isn't to say like commit your entire life to D&D, but I think the sorts of things that me and my friends have been doing have just made our characters more interesting, have like made us closer as friends as well. So in that way, I think it's a simple thing that solves a lot of problems potentially.
Okay. So do you think it's important that people are working on things in between games?
No, not necessarily. I think working on is also probably like sounds really intense and stressful. People obviously have different levels of energy they can give at any given
Mm.
time. But that's why there's a few things I think can be done that are really low energy that are just part of your day to day anyway. Things like creating playlists or adding to a Pinterest board. You're scrolling on your phone half the day anyway. I know I am anyway. So putting that time instead into, oh, I'm gonna have a think about my character's aesthetic, or oh, I'm gonna maybe look for a new song that describes like how they're feeling recently, is not too much effort, I would hope, but also could inspire an idea for the next session. It has this kind of snowball effect of I
Mm.
listen to a cool song and now I have a whole new idea for their backstory and blah 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 blah. It kind of goes on from there. So not so much important. I don't think it should be set up as an expectation, but I think it can be done really easily.
Yeah, I think that's a great. They're great examples as well because like the low energy side of it is what people want, right? They're kind of
Yeah.
escaping real life to go and kind of relax, have
Yeah,
some
exactly.
fun. Even if it becomes less relaxing than real life, but that's the fun of it.
Often
But
it
like,
does.
yeah, the things that you are just doing regularly, and you can kind of it becomes like a transferable activity or skill into something you love. Great. You're on the other side of that. We've talked about it before in the podcast where we started out actually as on the West Marches server. So it's
Yeah.
like heavily text based. People are going through what they do with their characters and leveling up, but then going into sessions outside of just RPing text based. So
Yeah.
there's like a whole scale. There's a massive spectrum of like a real lot of time is being put into this before
100%.
the session, or here's just like you can bring along and people might really enjoy it.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's a whole spectrum, isn't it? And it's also dependent on what kind of D&D player you are. And I think I have such respect for both in the sense of I've only got a certain amount of time. I'm here to just, escape for a little bit. And then you've got the me's, the crazy ones, who are like, I'm gonna dedicate every waking hour to thinking about my character. But I think you can scale it that way. Like you say, you can either rock up and be like, oh, I put together a Pinterest board, or you can rock up and go, I wrote out my entire character's backstory like a novel. Do you guys want to read it? And I don't think I've never had the experience of like comparing myself to what I'm doing with my other
Mm,
players. I've just enjoyed it and they've just enjoyed what I've done. And I think, as long as you're never setting that kind of bar of like, oh, you didn't write up, like
yeah.
that you didn't kind of create a piece of artwork this week, that would be really
It's a
unreasonable.
bit like playground kind of
Yeah,
antics, isn't it? Of like,
exactly.
what do you mean you don't? I don't.
Yeah, no,
Like you said,
definitely not that.
there's nothing in it. I think the only thing I can see where like people might go, they might kind of unconsciously go, "Oh, I wish I got involved in that," and they
Yeah,
they kind of separate themselves in that way. But like with all D&D, you just have to get stuck in. Like it's up to you
absolutely.
what you offer. People aren't gonna force it on you.
No, absolutely. And if anything, I think all of the things I now do as a given in between sessions, like creating the Pinterest board, doing playlists, writing, are things that often have been inspired by seeing another player do it first. So it wasn't a case of me seeing them do it and going, dang it, I should have thought of that. I just went, oh, I'm going to do that. Like it
Yeah,
just kind
yeah,
of,
yeah.
it turns into that. And I think in my current campaign, I was the first person to do like a written piece. And I was like, hey guys, I did a little like rehash of that one scene from my character's perspective. Here you go. And then another player did it, and then another player did it, and then another player did it, and we just all started contributing to each other. So I think it's just once one person shows everyone that it's like an option,
Yeah,
everyone else is kind of inspired to give it a go. And as well, we are all not writers. Like we're not professional
yeah.
writers. And sometimes I draw and I'm not a good drawer, so I think it's just being in that safe space and creating that safe space for your fellow players as well to share things and be creative and try new things. The same way you should for any friend, like never kind of making them feel weird about it. You don't have to be good at it. It's just a way of
Mm.
kind of I like to see it as like little love letters to each other. And it's gotten to the point now as well where instead of like finding songs for our own playlist, we're finding songs for each other's
Right,
playlists and
yeah.
going like, this reminded me of your character. Here's why. And in that, we've kind of all gotten closer. And I think that's a lovely, lovely thing to happen. And obviously, like I say, keeps campaigns going longer, I think.
I think it's an important thing to cover as well is the fact that like all those things that might seem a bit more out of the box as to what the standard of what you expect to turn up when you play, and then you're kind of done
Yeah.
for till the next session. You're already doing all of those things in your session where you don't know what to expect. You then get put in a situation, you act on it
Yeah.
in the moment, you learn from it, you bounce off someone else, work
Exactly.
together,
Yeah.
and then you learn from that. And the next time, you already know how that could go. Like you don't know the situation, but you're kind of prepped.
Yeah.
You've done this before. Do you know what I mean? And that's exactly the same
100%.
with anything outside of that session that you bring to the table.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just trying something new and seeing how it goes, and you might not want to do it again, but hey, you tried. Yeah, like, or it might unlock a whole new kind of hobby for you. But exactly that. To that point, though, it works the other way around, where I've actually seen, I think, people be better at improv and better at those kind of situations in game
Mm,
because they put some time into fleshing out their character out of game. For example, one of my fellow players is a paladin and he writes down potential prayers his paladin will say so
right.
that he
Okay.
doesn't have to come up with it on the spot and so that he's
Yeah.
happy with it. And so, when he'll wait as well for like a perfect moment, it's not like he shoehorns it in. And then when he does say this prayer at this like sad moment during the game, you're like, oh God, you're like, he delivers this speech and it might feel a little bit scripted. I appreciate it's not everybody's kind of play style, but it's created some of the most impactful moments in our story. And similarly, we have a bard who will jot down like the song that he thinks his bard is writing. And I think to that point, it makes improv easier and less scary because you've just put a little bit of thought in, a few days before, and
Yeah.
you go, oh, I could play that song now. Yeah, like, and you send it into the Discord and go, this is what he sang. He doesn't need to sing it. He doesn't sing it
Yeah.
for the
Yeah. Yeah.
record.
Oh, well,
I,
that's the shame. Yeah.
I know. I might force him to next time, but I think it's just such a like it's a lovely like surprise and delight. And I think if you
Mm,
treat every game like that as well, not as a what am I doing this session, but what am I doing to kind of like make my fellow players smile and enjoy the game better every session, you just will feel better coming out of
yeah.
it. If you're like I believe that with all things D&D. If you go in with a scene in mind that isn't just about you, is it about like, oh, I'm going to ask them a question based on something they said last session, it just makes such a difference, like to that player seeing you, feeling heard, feeling like their story is interesting, and then they're going to give you the same, energy back. And it's the
Mm,
same with sending them a little written piece or sending them a song that reminds them of their character. It's just a way of going like, I'm enjoying the story you're telling. I hope you're enjoying mine. And I think so many people fall into playing D&D in silo and just being like,
yeah.
my character's doing this, your character's doing that. We just so happen to be in the same, wagon. And it's fine and I think it can work, but I don't know that it creates the like most fun, most like friend-driven experience.
Yeah.
Sound a bit
You want
sappy,
it
but you know what
to
I mean?
be fun. Like you want it to feel like it's not
Exactly.
scheduled and it's not like the worst thing about D&D is the fact it's turn-based, right? Everyone kind
Yeah,
of agrees with that. So if you would treat it like, well, it's my turn, then it's your turn, and then I'll only respond when it's my turn, you're
exactly.
kind of like defeating the object of what everyone's trying to fight. As in,
Yeah,
it literally is in
exactly.
the unfun side of D&D. Well,
Yeah.
you gave examples there about like kind of encouraging other players. If it was your first time trying to encourage people, like from a player
Hmm.
perspective, DM perspective, like how would you go about that? How would you get people who might be we've talked about it before on the podcast when it comes to people trying voices for the first time or
Yeah.
people just not being comfortable role playing and they're more like combat orientated, but you really want to kind of encourage them to get involved outside of that. How would you encourage people to kind of do these kind of out of game
Like
activities?
activities. I think that's a really good question because yeah, obviously everybody comes to the table with a different level of kind of confidence and comfort as well. I think being very conscious of the social dynamics of your table is important. Every table is different, and I think being conscious of who knows who. You might all be strangers starting out. That's also obviously quite common, but For example, in my current table, we've got people who've been friends since primary school versus a couple of us who've only known each other in recent years.
Mm.
So I think paying attention to those dynamics and making sure that those players who might not have those pre-existing kind of like relationships and that pre-existing safety net are seen and you're paying attention to them. And I think if you're gonna direct your energy towards anything, then direct your energy towards them first,
Mm.
and their character, how they're doing at the table. And if you want to encourage activities, do it yourself. Because I think there's nothing more comforting than seeing someone else kind of try something first, isn't it? You're like, "Oh, I didn't have to do it first, but I saw you do it,
Yeah, it's
so
the
now I
safety
might
of,
give it a crack." So kind
yeah.
of, yeah, showing that you're doing those activities in the background and not using it as a haha, look how good I am, but more of a like, would do you want to join me? Like, for example, with a Pinterest board, create one for the whole party, and be like, hey, I started adding images based on the locations we visited. Does anyone else want to join in and collaborate on it and like add pictures that you thought of when we were there and that sort of thing? That is a really easy, like, again, not stressful way to get somebody involved a little bit more. And I think that makes a big difference, hopefully step by step, in building their confidence in all areas, not just like say in activities, but then that transcends into role play as well. Once somebody feels more comfortable with everyone through interactions outside of the game, they will feel more comfortable inside of the game, hopefully.
We've talked about that on lots of episodes, but
Yeah.
more so like really focused in the therapy episode we did recently, where it was
Mm.
kind of like um obviously no one at the table is a therapist unless they happen to be a therapist,
They might be.
but you're always, especially from a DM perspective, because it's kind of like you've set it up, so now people, there's this kind of like unspoken rule that you kind of set
Mm,
how things are and you have to check in on people. You should be doing that on each other in any circumstance, not just
100%.
D&D. But like, yeah, that example you gave there about the Pinterest, like at least you're putting you're kind of like stepping in the water first and
Yeah,
then offering
exactly.
it up. And it's so important that like you said, like reading the room and like encouraging people is all you can ask of them, really. Um,
Yeah, absolutely.
with our next question, then I've put like if people are happy to just turn up for sessions and play and leave it at the table, is that okay? That some get involved and some don't. Is there like a kind of disparity there between?
That's a really good point. I think and that's an interesting question for me because I haven't really thought about it too much. My entire party is pretty much inclined that way. But now I think about it, there are a few of us who are more active with the activities than the others. It's never bugged me once, or I've never really paid attention to it. And I think to that point, it's absolutely fine. I think as long as you all come with the understanding of, I'm here to have a good time with you, and everybody's good time looks slightly different, I think that's absolutely fine because forcing someone to do something is also just not cool or fun.
Yes, like the
Like
worst thing you could do after like a
exactly,
rubbish day. You go to this and then you're like, "Where's your
exactly.
homework?"
Exactly that. So I think I suppose the important first step is making sure you're at the right table for you in terms of style of game, etc. So you don't run into that kind of issue. But in terms of how you interact outside of the game, it then kind of becomes not about D&D. It's just about how you interact with anyone in your life. It's
Mm,
understanding them and understanding what they like and what they don't like, inviting them maybe to join you in that activity or like share songs or share the Pinterest board, whatever. But if they don't, that's cool. Like that's
yeah,
honestly fine. I think everybody shows up to the table in a different way, and what happens in game then is, the energy they give in game is the most important. Everything we do around it is more just to honestly kill the time, and like waiting for a session is so painful, especially
yeah,
when you're enjoying your campaign. So it's just a way to give each other reasons to chat. But for, I've got a fellow player who doesn't do the writing or drawing, etc. We just talk. Like I just send him
mm,
memes. Like
yeah, yeah.
yeah,
That's it.
that's my way of connecting with him. So I think it's a case of like if that person doesn't do the same fun as everyone else, then what's their version of fun? And how can you join in on that? And sometimes it's just talk to each other outside of games. I've definitely witnessed tables who are there for the D&D and then that's it.
Yeah, yeah,
I I personally couldn't be me because I'm here to have fun with friends. Like so if we're not friends, then I don't really know what we're doing. So for me, it's really important to just like chat in between. Some people are talkative, some people aren't. You just get to a point where you figure each other out. I think you figure out your kind
Mm.
of language in between sessions.
I think you hit like a good point there as well. We've talked about it before, where it's kind of the social aspect of D&D, that it's not necessarily just at the table. Like
Yeah.
these activities you could be doing away from the table between games could just be actually hanging out, right? It's
Yeah.
not like it needs to be character focused. Some people just want to actually spend time with you. They let you, like you said,
100%.
you group. There's people who've known each other from primary school. There's some who've known each other for like the last year.
Yeah,
Like that person might just really be interested in meeting new people, and they've got into D and
exactly.
D. And that's still a good way of going about it.
Yeah, exactly that. I think just talking is like the most underrated thing that no one talks about enough in terms
Yeah,
of like
yeah, it
how
is. It
everyone's
really
like,
is.
oh no, my campaign died. And I'm like, did you talk to each other? Like, it's just the first thing I always think, because everybody falls into that trap a little bit. But like you say, everybody wants a certain level of socialization as well. So I think if the game is enough for you, then that's so cool. That's absolutely fine. And just paying attention to each other and making sure that you hopefully don't leave anyone out. Like you wouldn't want
Mm.
to, I suppose, do the whole like, oh, the three of us who do the, these activities are going to hang out and the rest of you aren't going to cut. Don't do that.
Yeah,
Just
yeah, yeah.
make sure that it's always inclusive. It's a funny hobby, isn't it? There's so much thinking that kind of does go into like the social side of things, but I do think it's actually not more complicated than just having a friendship group. Like
I
just
actually think that's the biggest problem is that there is a lot that goes into it, unspoken rules, but all those
yeah.
unspoken rules are just like conventions in your society, like wherever you are
Yeah.
in the
Just
world.
be
It's
nice.
fully, yeah, yeah, that's it. And it feels like there's loads you have to do, but it's because I think like people compare it to like a hobby that they go and do on an hour on a Thursday, or do
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Or it's a skate, it becomes like work. And it's like, it really is just hanging out with people. All
Yeah.
those rules, you don't have to think about them when they're with someone else you like. That's
Yeah,
it.
exactly.
That's it.
Exactly. Yeah, I think because D&D feels a bit overwhelming in and of itself, it then, yeah, like you say, it makes it feel like the entire experience is overwhelming, and it doesn't have to be. It can be so simple. It's the same with like I see a lot of content, so slightly kind of changing lanes, but I see a lot of content that's like, you must play weekly or you have to be
Mm.
doing this. And I'm like, says who? Like everybody
Yeah, yeah.
plays this game differently. It's like the most sandbox hobby of all time. You can do
Yeah,
it
yeah.
however you like. So to that degree, me saying, I think people should try playlists and Pinterest boards is me saying that with a very acute awareness that so many people would hate that, and that's not
Yeah,
how they
you're
play.
right.
That's fine.
Yeah.
My fun's my fun. I won't yuck your yum. Yeah, like I
Yeah,
think
yeah.
what's nice about this community generally is that everybody does kind of like acknowledge different opinions and go,
Yeah.
yeah, like well, from at least from the lovely experience I have had and seen, people tend to go, oh yeah, it's not the same for me, but good for you, and I think the more we can keep that up, the better. Because
Oh, I've talked about it so many times with guests. Like it seems to be like the one hobby in the world where like anyone is welcome. I think
yeah,
because it can D&D can be anything, anyone can be a part of it. Do you know what I mean?
100%.
It's so it doesn't matter where you're from, what you're going through,
Yeah.
what kind of economic background you come from. Like as long as you're not the dick, then it's fine.
Yeah.
Like it's absolutely fine. And I've not come across anyone where I'm like, oh God. If anything, there might be people where I go, that just doesn't really suit my play style. I'm gonna
Exactly.
duck. But I'm not like this is a terrible person. Like, do you know what I
Yeah.
mean? It's just not. And it's the
No.
amount I've met so many different people, just not even from the podcast, but just trying for the first time, going to like beginners league sessions in different cities.
Yeah.
And it's like the first game I ever played, there was a guy there who was literally in the SAS. And
I
I was
love
sitting there
that.
thinking, this guy is like this hench, like
Oh,
scouts
that's so
guy.
cool.
And the way he was playing was like, it was my first time ever playing. And he was so like tactical. And I was like, this isn't what I thought D&D was like. And then I was like, no one else is doing that.
Yeah,
And then
maybe it's not.
after he was like, yeah, I've just done like 20 years in the SAS. And he was so, and I was like, I don't even think you're lying. I fully believe that.
I
Like it
fully
was,
believe that.
yeah,
Also,
so
bringing that tactical knowledge to the game as well. I
helpful.
would love to have.
Yeah,
I'm
helpful.
terrible with strategy, so I feel like
Get
having
him on
him at the
speed
table.
dial.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
exactly. This is
So,
the thing. It's such a beautiful thing, isn't it? You see, it's like when I first found out Vin Diesel is a massive
right.
D&D fan. I was like, I'm going to tell everyone I know this because I'm sure you're the same. When some of the people around you don't play D&D, I think you spend a lot of your time trying to convince them it's cool.
A
Like
hundred
that's
percent. They'll
my
go,
whole
"Oh,
life.
are you doing that? Are you doing that tonight?" And you're like, I'm not sacrificing people. I'm playing a game, and
Trust
you'll
me.
probably
Yeah.
enjoy it. Like,
Yeah,
yeah,
you would. Honestly, my colleagues are sick of me because I will come into the office and start blabbing about the game. But they're so kind. Like, some of them will be like, "Oh, you said that you reunited with your long lost brother last session. How did that go?"
yeah,
And I'm like, "Thank you for asking."
yeah.
It's
It's a tough, sensitive subject right now.
yeah, exactly. And then somebody walks past you in the office kitchen and is like, "What the fuck are they talking about?"
Yeah,
Yeah, like it's always you always do look like the most concerning person. But yeah, at my own table, I've got a physicist, two historians, someone who works in finance, someone who is a woodworker. It's nuts. Yeah, like and
yeah,
myself, I work in social media, and it's like to that point as well. That was kind of was something that really inspired me to talk about this topic was seeing everybody bring their like different niche interests or like areas of expertise to the game has been
yeah.
fascinating as well. Like I know that, as we said earlier, escapism is an important part of D&D for a lot of people, but I really think that you can find ways to bring your life into D&D that just makes it more fun. And the historians at the table are really, really good at like world building out their characters like faith and where they came from and creating entire cities, etc. And then the physicist at the table created the weather system for our world, which was really, really cool. I didn't understand a word of what he was saying,
No, it's
but like I love that, and I like to write. I was an English student, so like I write written pieces, as we've sort of said. So seeing everybody bring like a bit of what they do on a day-to-day basis to the game is actually really cool. And like we are there to get away from work, but like we can't really get away from who we are and
yeah,
what we do. So
yeah,
bring it in. Like if you're a crafty person, craft, invitations or magic items, and like there's so much cool stuff people could do, I think, that they maybe don't consider because they haven't seen it done before. Then be
mm,
the first person to do it. Like just give it a try. Because if somebody rocks up to the table with like oh, by the way, that magic item we found, here it is, I made it. I would be blown, I'd be screaming. Like that's so cool. So I think, yeah, that was originally what inspired me with this group was I'd never seen so many different people in one
yeah.
place bring so many different skills and yet all have like a shared experience still, like you say, that there's nothing like D&D in that sense.
100%, 100%. Well, the final question, but the toughest
Mm.
question now.
Ooh, okay, hit me.
What's your favorite thing to do between games with your character?
Ooh,
And can you give an example of why?
okay. Um, I don't know if this is my favorite, but it's my most frequent. I am just terrible for talking to myself all the time.
Okay.
So I am a bit of a Delulu girly when I'm on a dog walk or in the shower, and like I don't pre-prepare things I'm gonna say, but when you kind of finish the session, you're like, oh, I feel like this conversation is gonna come up next session.
Mm,
Yeah, like playing that out actually is so fun for me because you say something that you think is like a bar. Do you know what I mean? You'll be like, yeah, but he killed my father or something. And then you say it in the shower, you're like, that sounds shit. I'm
yeah.
gonna rewrite that, and so for me, like pre-preparing, not even pre-preparing, but just like imagining and having fun, getting excited about like the potential scenarios is a joy for me. And that, as we've kind of discussed, requires literally no energy. I do it when I'm
Yeah.
just walking around, when I'm, working from home, that sort of thing. And it means that I go into the next session with more ideas. Oftentimes, if I do that and I'm talking through my thoughts, I realize something about my character I didn't realize before. It's like always time well spent. So as much as that's the most like intangible thing, that
Mm,
probably is my favorite. And I also kind of pair that with listening to my character playlist, going through my
right.
Pinterest. So like I kind of start to stack them. Like on a really bad day, I'll start to do like five things at once. So yeah, just thinking ahead for the next session, which I also think is just really important. It makes improv easier, makes every session less scary.
I'm fully imagining you on a dog walk talking to yourself, and someone's going, God, she's a bit
100%.
crazy. And then you're like, oh, no, it's
100%.
just my character. It's fine. You
well,
need to,
well, I've got my headphones on, so like in my head, I'm like, if someone's driving past me, I look like I'm just having a really intense conversation on the
yeah,
phone.
yeah,
But it gets quite dicey when you get yourself like emotional, and I'm like, I need to calm down. Like
yeah,
somebody's gonna come up to me and be like, "Are you okay?" I'll be like, "Yeah, he killed my mother." Like
yeah.
I'll say something
Who
really
was it?
dark.
Oh, it's
Yeah,
not. It's
exactly.
if you meet me next week for 3 hours, you'll see.
Yeah, exactly. So no, that fully is happening. My neighbor, I was having a drink with her the other night and she was like, "Oh, I drove past you and I like flashed my lights, but you were like really yapping, so you didn't notice." And I was like, I don't think I was on the phone.
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
That was probably.
I'm prepping for grief.
Yeah,
Prepping for grief.
for my DM to hit me with a frying pan, which obviously he
Yeah,
loves to do. So
amazing. Well, thank you so much. We're going to go with the after a humble way of ending, a very like light-hearted way of ending. I will ruin it as I always do. Today's adventure is sadly coming to a close. We're back in next week with the topic: will I ever be happy with my body? And as always, thank you for tuning in. And if you'd like to join the D&D action, that's too hard, too close to home, then please follow us on Instagram at How to Play D&D, or check out the link in our bio to join our Discord server, and also check out Black Mark Clone on Instagram for cool D&D clothing. Minty, where can we find you? What do you do?
Oh, I am, I guess, a YouTuber nowadays. Gosh, that's great. If I could tell 10-year-old me that. Wow. I am, I guess, a D&D content creator. You can find me on YouTube at Minty Talks a lot, and I'm also on Instagram and TikTok. I do longer form content on YouTube, and then on Instagram and TikTok, I'm a little bit more active. And I don't have many followers, so I will respond to your comment. So please,
There we go.
Ask me anything.
You don't want the comments. Our first ever comment when I was doing this as a duo, we knew we made it big on YouTube because someone actually put the time of when we actually get into it, and then for our next episode, we actually just talked until that exact second, and then thanked the guy, and then he then commented again on that
I love
episode,
that.
and he was like, fair play.
Yeah, I have actually had the exact same experience. I realized someone created a clip, like where they, like you say, create their own timestamp for the video, and it said like the actual start, and but it was about 10 seconds in, and I was like, that feels unnecessary.
I welcome it. I mean, it took them longer to do all of that than to just get through it. So
true. No publicity is bad publicity. So
there we go. All right. Well, thank you so much for your time. Now the very English thing to do. I've been Connor Kinsey.
I've been Minty.
Good day.